Well, as you can see from what I'm wearing, we just got back and saw Jurassic World Dominion. This is actually my third time seeing it, and this was your first time?
Yes, it was. It was indeed my first time.
Yeah, I wanted to do this like early on, but our personal lives got in the way. But we're doing it now, so sorry about the long wait. And I did promise this at the end of Doctor Strange, but I think we're ready to go. So, initial reactions to this one?
It was a good film, for sure. There were definitely, you did see a lot of the scenes that were in the trailer, but there were also some scenes, or for the most part, that were not in the trailer that are in the film, which kind of makes the story go from what some people apparently thought it was going to be to another thing.
Yeah, I liked this more than Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. I think this is the best of the three. And speaking of people who thought this was going to be a different movie, see, I feel like this was a different film than what was advertised with the trailers. Mm-hmm. The trailers suggested, like, we've released dinosaurs into the wild and we have this ecological disaster in the making. But there wasn't really that many dinosaurs they hold up in the Lockwood estate at the end of Fallen Kingdom.
Well, I mean, here's the thing that they were, it's kind of like the white lie sort of thing. They showed you what was true. Yes, dinosaur did roam the entire planet, and there might have been some issues here and there, like road troubles, or boats were sinking because of a big giant sea creature eating up a bunch of things.
Yeah, the mosasaur when it attacks the crabfishers.
Yep.
Do you know what that reminded me of?
Which one?
On this episode of Deadliest Catch, we are catching a ton of crabs, and yes, there's a mosasaur involved. It's literally you could picture Deadliest Catch from the Discovery Channel in your head.
Oh yeah, but they did say that it was again true that dinosaurs were roaming and they caused a lot of problem, but the main issue were kind of like these bugs basically,
which we're gonna get into. But, so yeah, the trailers kind of suggested this would be a globe-trotting adventure, but it wasn't.
No, you did go to certain areas, but not like globally per se. Like, you didn't go from here, like, like what the movie looked like it was going to be. It mainly focused on 1, 2, 3 spots, really, with a few, like 4, 5, or 6 locations being like a brief moment.
Yes, something like that. But even though I liked this film, there are a few things that I didn't quite like about it, or there were moments per se, because really, we're going to spoil stuff, but it's more like moments. We're not going to recap the whole movie, because the thing I need to warn people is this may be a bit of a longish video, but I will try not to make it as long as Doctor Strange was. Nearly 3-hour video, but we'll try and make this one a little shorter.
Try, but we won't know until the video ends.
Yeah, pretty much. So, the first thing I want to talk about actually is the Dinosaur Foundation. This is dinosaur media you and I grew up with, and I'll explain what the Dinosaur Foundation was for us. See, dinosaurs and adventure are two things that go very well together. And anytime we saw one of these pieces of media growing up, it felt like we were on this massive adventure of a lifetime. We weren't watching a movie or a TV show or playing a game. We were like there, and we were adventuring with these creatures,
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to Jurassic Park growing up to a bunch of other media outlet, did feel like that way, though.
Yeah, and the thing is, I am a self-professed Jurassic Park fanboy, and when I say Jurassic Park, I'm talking about the original 3, not the World movies. So I'm someone that liked The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park 3, despite others having opinions on those two. But I can make some pretty good defenses for them.
And especially, I know for 3, where the main debate was between 2 dinosaurs.
Yeah, but I actually saw that more as 2 alpha predators dominating over territory and who gets to be the king predator on the island.
Yeah, which that sort of storyline revolves back into this 3rd movie of the World Series.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. So my defense for Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 is that they're not thinking person movies. They're more summer blockbusters that are fun and adventurous, and they understand you're not here to be bored. You're not here to think about ethical issues or scientific issues. You're here to have fun, and really, that's all they ever were to me.
That was true for sure, although they did kind of like sprinkle in the science because it's kind of hard to tell how dinosaurs were brought back into the world per se without throwing science involved. Because if you don't throw science involved, then it becomes not so much sci-fi per se, but kind of old fictional, sort of like fantasy per se.
Yeah, it was sci-fi in nature, but it wasn't really like so silly that I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Because the Sci-Fi Channel did that a lot with their direct-to-video movies.
Yeah, that's
And so with Jurassic Park 3 probably has the most silliest moments out of the original trilogy. That scene where Grant's in a dream, he wakes up and the raptor's on the side and it's like, Alan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that people kind of take that scene out and think it's silly, but for me it's like, But I guess really like, see, I would have done it where the raptor's like menacingly staring at him without saying a word, and then Grant wakes up.
Yeah.
But they didn't really do that. And then there was also in Jurassic Park 3 the Spinosaurus killing the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Which, my defense for that is, we would have gotten bored with the T-Rex really quick. And I get it's a star dinosaur, but there's others out there we need to showcase outside of the T-Rex.
And that is for sure. And again, I was probably one of the other people who defend the Spinosaurus because I thought, looking at it, because he is a menacing type of creature when you look at him.
Yeah, it was a very menacing animal, although science lately has said the real Spinosaurus is not like what we saw in 3.
No, but if they ever do find a creature sort of like that, then that could definitely make the case of like a potential like apex predators per se, or like level of like close to each other.
Yeah, there's probably a ton of other things I could mention. I'd have to save them for a full-fledged review.
Yeah.
But I grew up with the original Jurassic Park trilogy. I quite loved the original trilogy. I never saw them in the theater, unfortunately, because I was too young. And obviously, Jurassic Park happened before I was born. But I did see re-releases of the original in the theater. There was a 3D re-release and a 25th anniversary release. It was fun to see those again.
Yeah.
And outside of Jurassic Park, with our Dinosaur Foundation, there was The Land Before Time and its many, many sequels.
I only saw the first one. I don't recall the other ones. So you everyone else who saw 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
There was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then there was 14, but I don't think anyone ever talked about that one.
I think when you get too far into that one, you become more of a TV show rather than a movie. And the fact of the matter is they made 14 movies of the same character.
But I mean, growing up, I didn't really mind the sequels that much.
Yeah.
The first one's obviously the best, and the sequels are more Disney-ish, where we throw in all these musical numbers,
Yeah.
and we have all this cutesy imagery, but there was some scary imagery from time to time.
Well, the first one definitely for sure with the T-Rex, again, the Land Before Time, Land Before, that one, because the dinosaur they interpreted was, you don't see how he looked like until he was really close to the main cast, but you kind of saw him with a kind of like shadow, the room over here, but with red bloodshot eyes.
Yeah, and the sequels didn't quite do that as much. And they did throw in other shark teeth animals, because that's what they call them, shark teeth.
Yeah.
But I remember, which of the sequels have I seen? I saw 2, I saw 3, I saw 4, 5.
Yeah.
6 was advertised quite a lot back in the day, but I never saw it. 7 was shown quite a lot on Cartoon Network back in the day. That was the one they played the most. I remember 8, which was the Big Freeze. That's the snow themed one. 9 I saw probably years down the road. 10 I saw. 12 I rented from a video store once, and then I haven't seen the others.
For me, besides the first one of the whole series, the other one was Disney's old animation version called Dinosaur.
Oh yeah, that was another one in the Foundation. That came out in 2000 when Jurassic Park was still big and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it has similarities to The Land Before Time, but I still like it to this day.
There was similarities, but you can tell the distinct difference, mainly because the one was a little bit more aiming toward kids, while the other one was aimed towards
probably slightly older.
On the older side of things, for sure, especially how when you saw the dinosaur one, it became more of a not just staying within the pack, but also the survival.
Yeah, and not only that, but with Dinosaur, like, they took a big risk by having the Carnotaur be the lead big dinosaur, because originally they wanted the T-Rex to be the villain in Dinosaur, but it was a big risk to do the Carnotaur, but it was good. I liked the Carnotaur. Very memorable design and roar, which is still ingrained into my memory.
Yeah, definitely.
Terrifying predator.
Yeah.
And then there were the documentaries made by the BBC and Discovery Channel of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There was Walking with Dinosaurs, which was actually the result of Jurassic Park being so big.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one for sure with BBC and just having kind of like that landscape or the scope of.
But it was very educational. It told you like how these creatures possibly lived, what they did. It was really impressive. There was a sequel, Walking with Prehistoric Beasts, that was after the dinosaurs, but it's one of the best documentary sequels I've ever seen.
Definitely, for sure.
There was a spin-off called Walking with Cavemen, which was different human species, but I never saw that one.
Oh yeah, and then you also sort of got, even though this aims toward kids, and they show dinosaurs from time to time, Flintstones per se.
I remember a little bit, but that wasn't part of our foundation.
No, but they did show some dinosaurs, and it was, back then. Now, granted, Flintstones were aimed towards kids, and it was mainly towards the humans, Fred and and his buddies and everything else like that. But you did see some dinosaurs, even though they were more cartoony.
There was also a prequel to Walking with Dinosaurs called Walking with Monsters, and this was basically all the creatures that were before the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
And that one I felt was the weakest of the Walking with trilogy because it's condensed, more shortened. We don't dedicate episodes to different periods or different animals.
Oh yeah.
Which is what I really liked about Walking with Prehistoric Beasts. It's like different periods, different animals.
Yeah.
One episode they dedicated entirely to the Ice Age. It was really cool.
Oh yeah.
So there's that. And then there were some dinosaur video games, which I played a few Jurassic Park video games growing up. There was Operation Genesis, which was the precursor to Jurassic World Evolution.
Oh yeah. That one, and there's a few others too.
And I would say Operation Genesis is best played on the PC because if you are a Zoo Tycoon fan and you played the Dinosaur Digs expansion pack, you would have definitely loved that.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot of dinosaur games if I recall. I haven't really played myself in terms of the whole genre and everything else like that. I'm just trying to remember for terms of dinosaurs. Although lately, for new generations too, right now or present time, we have Ark, the survival.
Oh yeah, Ark Survival. I played a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But that's more like online multiplayer and whatnot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
During the 90s, there was Dino Crisis, which is basically Resident Evil but with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's made by Capcom, and unfortunately, Dino Crisis 3 killed that franchise.
Yeah.
Though I'm hoping they remake the Dino Crisis games the same way they've done with Resident Evil and bring it back.
Oh yeah.
That would be nice. There was also the Turok games, which were popular on the N64. Never played them, but I know they got ported over to major new systems like the PlayStation 4, and I want to try those out someday.
Oh, that would be nice for sure. Give me one quick moment. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quickly here.
All right. I'm going to stop the video for a sec, so we'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. We kind of had to address a little something, but we left. What's it?
Technical issues and a few other things too.
Yes, but we're back now. So when we left off with the Dinosaur Foundation, we were talking about Jurassic Park, Land Before Time, Disney's Dinosaur, any video games we grew up with, any documentaries.
Yep. And I know you mentioned, what was the last thing you mentioned again? It was
we were talking about Dino Crisis. Turok.
Turok, yeah, for the video games. There's another video game too that you, I know I mentioned Ark as well for the newer ones.
Yeah, there were maybe some games that were aimed at younger kids that I remember playing quite well.
Yeah.
Don't remember the titles, but it's been a long time, and I don't want to go into that too much.
And one last thing too, if you're either an old or new one like myself in terms of this series, Monster Hunter, just because there are some dinosaur-like creatures in the games that are in the that's part of the series as well. there is a T-Rex type creature in the game. You know,
I have not played Monster Hunter, so I unfortunately can't speak for that.
really good game. I'm more, like I said, I'm more the newbie in terms of like fifth gen fleet world and Rise per se, but I have done my research in terms of the previous generations, and I'm still in the beginning part of Generations, an older Monster Hunter type game. But it is very fun though.
Actually, I was going to say in terms of documentaries, there was one that the Discovery Channel made that I really liked. It was called Dinosaur Planet.
Oh, yeah.
Which, do you remember that one?
I think I vaguely do, or somewhat remember a little bit about
There were 4 episodes, each set on a different continent.
Yeah.
And one of the species from Dinosaur Planet was actually featured in Jurassic World Dominion. That scene where it's in the ice, that was one of them.
Oh, yeah, that one where it just like, it kind of goes like this and then just dives in like that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. And then, in terms of what else was part of the Dinosaur Foundation, I don't know if this counts, but do the Ice Age movies count?
Not really, and the reason why I only say not really, it's only because I know in 3 that they brought up dinosaurs in it because of the whole like land, like the lost,
Hollow Earth, where the dinosaurs
thing.
are in there. And I actually like the 3rd one quite a lot.
That was an interesting one, but I kind of feel like you can almost say Ice Age sort of doesn't count, only because technically, for a historical standpoint, Ice Age came in way before or way after the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it came after that, but it's still like prehistoric in a way.
It is still prehistoric, that is for sure. But it did came in, again, like way after, especially after the meteor, struck Earth, basically causing the whole planet just to become dry, basically.
Yeah, and then the first 3 Ice Ages I like. I didn't like the 4th one, but I thought the 5th and the 6th one, which is on Disney Plus, were really bad.
Yeah.
And then this was a TV show on Channel 9. It was called Terra Nova, which, if you remember what that was.
I don't believe I can recall that.
It's a show where in the 22nd century, the Earth is like overpopulated and overpolluted.
Oh, yeah.
So we go back to the Cretaceous period to like sort of build a new civilization. Mm-hmm. We're living amongst these dinosaurs, but the humans in the 22nd century want to like they want to pillage the land of resources. And for when it came out, it was basically there to fill the void when there was no Jurassic Park. But I remember it being fun. I have to sort of rewatch it again when I have time, but I remember liking it back then.
Speaking of fun or stuff like that, the Dinobots.
From Transformers?
Yeah.
I don't know if those are part of the Dinosaur Foundation or not.
I don't know if you want to call that or not per se, but I brought them up because, if you did grow up with Transformers a little bit, like dinosaurs and Transformers, you did really like the Dinobots a lot.
Yeah.
Because they did.
The Dinobots are like fan favorites, really, from Transformers, but I don't really consider them part of the Foundation because Transformers is its own thing, pretty much. But anyway, with that Dinosaur Foundation described, this is everything we grew up on. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
And anytime we watched it, we were immersed in the adventure.
Yeah.
And it was basically all of what I just described was a reflection of my dinosaur-loving psyche.
Yeah.
And so Jurassic Park is to me what Star Wars is to Tony.
I am a big Star Wars fan. I mean, I don't know if it's on the same level for you as as the Jurassic Park, and the dinosaur sort of thing, but I am a big Star Wars fan. From the originals, prequels, sequels, I know it has got some bad raps. I personally like just episode 7.
Yeah.
8 and 9 I have issues with, but
Same
7
here. 9 was really bad.
I kind of, for me personally, 8 is the worst. 9 was a little bit of entertaining, only because some of its goofiness, but it has a lot of issues per se.
Well, I bring this up because with Star Wars, there was a foundation where it was the original trilogy for most fans.
Yep.
Nothing else but that. Maybe some expanded universe, but nothing else but those things.
Yep.
So when The Phantom Menace was announced, fans were really excited that there was going to be a new Star Wars movie after all this time. But when it came out, there was a very divided response, to say the least.
It was a divided response only for a few instances. One being there's a certain distinct character by the going on Misa.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
He's the black sheep in the room, I guess.
Basically the comedical. Even though for Star Wars fans they didn't really want that, but they also wanted to sell toys. Another thing at the same time, even though this wasn't really meant for the toys aspect, but the whole political but the whole political stuff.
Yeah, people were like, even me per se, it's like, I don't want to watch Star Wars for that. I want to watch it for its big epic space battles and the story it's trying to tell and all this political stuff. I just didn't find it all that fascinating.
No, but you got to keep in mind in terms of the prequels, especially when the timeline that you're in, there's nothing really going on. So there wasn't really like this grand war that was happening.
It was building up to it, but I would have started in the Clone Wars, and then maybe you could have a little bit of that, but start in the Clone Wars like the cartoons did.
Well, and the reason how the cartoons sort of did was because of the Attack of the Clones from Episode 2.
Yeah, that was basically the pilot episode to all those Clone Wars cartoons, really.
Kind of was, yeah. Kind of like build it up a little bit. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, like if you wanted to start over, you could have Episode 2 be Episode 1, but you have to also kind of figure out who Anakin was or where did he came from. Which Episode 1 did kind of explain some of it in terms of how he became Darth Vader. Fear, which was Anakin, the youngling Anakin, that's how you could grow his fear. Anger, a lot of anger issues with Anakin in Episode 2.
And then it comes to a culmination in Episode 3, which I felt was the best of the prequel trilogy.
Yes, it was. Which was 3, was you kind of see the first half when he was starting as Darth Vader, as hatred, and then when he fully got into the suit, suffering.
Yes, exactly. So what I'm trying to get with this is that Jurassic Park, it's very special to me. It defined my love of blockbuster filmmaking and just going to the movies in general,
Yeah.
And Steven Spielberg is such a talented filmmaker that the first 2 movies I just feel are some of the best things he's ever done in his career. And whenever Steven Spielberg does a blockbuster, always going to be fun.
It does seem like that with some directors like Steven Spielberg and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I knew about Jurassic Park 4 because that's what it was called before it became Jurassic World. I knew about this movie's existence before they officially announced it.
Mm-hmm.
It went through like several scripts and rewrites and stuff. So when they announced that Jurassic World was coming,
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. I was that big a fan, I
Mm-hmm.
was so excited this series was coming back, and I was just like, I was that excited,
Yeah.
And then when the trailers came around, it was the greatest thing. It was the greatest thing. There was going to be a new Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't think this was possible, but I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And the trailers were so exciting. They were great. And I was really excited. And I actually saw Jurassic World in the IMAX the first time because I wanted the best experience possible.
Oh, yeah?
But then I saw the movie and it was over. It crushed and killed that foundation I had with the original 3 movies and all the other dinosaur media. It made me realize I was watching a movie and I was not going on an adventure and having my dinosaur-loving psyche be reflected on screen.
I think to all the Star Wars fans out there, in terms of the prequels one, now they're all saying join the club, and some of the new ones from sequels also saying join the club as well, a little bit as well.
Yeah, and the problem with Jurassic World is I like the idea of a fully functional dinosaur theme park. Good idea, wasn't executed very well.
Well, I think the issue was, again, when it came to Jurassic Park, it was the idea of the park, but it's just they had a lot of issues before opening, so they never really had a grand opening per se.
Yeah.
They had a grand tour, but not so much of a grand opening. Whereas Jurassic World put in the idea of a grand opening, and then still some issues became bigger issues, and then vice versa.
Yeah, but the problem is with Jurassic World is I wanted to spend more time in the park, see all the cool attractions. We do, but we don't spend enough time in it because we're focusing more on this hybrid dinosaur.
The hybrid dinosaur for sure, which was the mixture of a
T-Rex, Velociraptor, and a bunch of other animals.
Yeah, when it gets the cloaking and stuff like that, which if it became unchecked, which it did, it becomes a major issue.
And I did not mind the Indominus Rex. I liked its design, and I just liked the roars it had. But I feel like it was more monster, less animal. And one of the reasons why I like the original trilogy so much is that the dinosaurs were not monsters; they acted more like animals.
Yeah.
So with these New World movies, I feel like they act less like animals. I mean, they'll still act like animals from time to time, but there's something more anthropomorphic, maybe, about some of them, like with Blue.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But again, I mean, what also probably took you away a little bit as well is because of the world, Jurassic World, and I'm separating Park and World just because of the trilogies. World brought more science involved per se.
And I don't have an issue with the science. It's just like I feel like the movie needed to feel like the original trilogy, or just capture that magic that was there, you know, and it just couldn't do that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Park did. I mean, again, granted, they did have their science, but it was only for explanationary reasonings, whereas World felt like it was not only explanations to things why occur, but it also became more of the plot as well. Whereas, there are some head scientists or whatever the case may be from 4, 5, and 6 became a little bit more, you could say, antagonists. Mm-hmm. There are a lot more antagonists in World than there were than Park.
Yeah, that is the case. There were a lot of human antagonists. You had Dr. Wu to a degree. You had Vic Hoskins, who was the security guy, and he introduced something that drove me up the wall, which was weaponizing the velociraptors.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea of training velociraptors. Cool idea, and you could use them for show, kind of like how they do with dolphins at aquariums. But when they bring up weaponizing raptors, bad.
Well, I mean, for a predator, I mean, that is one thing you can look from the goods, like you say, for dolphins and seals and whatnot and stuff like that. But also the bad in terms of war, so stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to see like Jurassic Park go down that route where it feels less like the original trilogy and something that the Sci-Fi Channel would produce. I just didn't want that. Another issue I had with Jurassic World was a lot of the effects didn't really look good. Like, I could tell I'm looking at computer graphics, and there was like maybe one animatronic they used in the whole movie, which was a dying Apatosaurus.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of it was computer graphics, and I'm like, nothing what I'm looking at is real. Maybe there were a few shots from like, okay, but I just knew I was looking at computer graphics.
Oh yeah.
Because the original trilogy did such a good job blending CGI with animatronics.
Yeah.
And I could tell what was practical, what was CGI. Really good CGI, still holds up.
Yeah.
But with Jurassic World, it just... And a lot of the sounds of the dinosaurs in the new movies, with the exception of a few, there hasn't been that many memorable sounds. Because the original trilogy, if you played any sound, I could tell you what species it is.
Yeah.
But in the new stuff, the sounds outside of the iconic ones, they haven't been that good.
Well, I mean, maybe not iconic, but there are some creatures, that you could maybe don't remember by name, but you do remember them by how they act per se. Kind of like how, like we were talking about earlier, with the dinosaur that swam underneath the icy waters. Basically, that is something very intriguing as well, because that's something that you could say an unfair advantage, because you're thinking like, okay, if you're both on an icy platform, you're thinking, okay. If one sinks, it's the end, and the other one will be fine. But instead, he's able to learn how to swim, and it's like, well, that's no fair.
Yeah, and I mean, with Jurassic World, there was also a silly scene at the end where a Velociraptor and a T-Rex team up to take on the Indominus Rex. Bad idea. I would have had 2 T-Rexes fight the Indominus, and then the Mosasaur comes out and kills it.
Well, you also had a very similar, I was about to say team up, but...
We're going to get into that, but they did the same thing here.
Yeah, basically in the third one, they sort of, not really, it was kind of more of a... Yeah, we'll get into that, for sure. But
I didn't mind the acting. I liked Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard and some of the other people in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
The youngest kid character, Gray, he was pretty cool, but his older brother, did not like him. Didn't like Zach.
Well, he went through a teenage phase.
Yeah, and it's like... I got a problem with this in movies where they write teenagers where it just feels so stereotypical, and it's like, I did not go through that when I was a teenager. My experience was completely different.
No, but it is a stereotypical sort of phase. When kids or teenagers act up, a lot of parents would say they're just teenagers. They'll grow out of it.
Yeah, but that was not me, and I hate it when they write teenage characters like this in movies, because some people can relate to that, I can't.
Yeah.
I hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
And then the dinosaur petting zoo in the original Jurassic World, that was something that drove me up the wall. Because it's like, you're taking these young animals and you're separating them from their herds, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, I can understand that for real animals in the world, but dinosaurs? I wouldn't have done that.
Well, I mean, it's sort of the thing, though. Like, if you can understand for the real world animals, why not for dinosaurs who are very much could be friendly, or like the herbivores?
Yeah, but I don't know. It bugged me. And then, I mean, it just was not the comeback that I really wanted it to be, the original Jurassic World. I just think it fell flat on its face. It was a very big disappointment for me.
I think for World, I mean, it was not like Park. It took a different... It definitely did took a different turn. It still kept its familiar theme, but went into a little bit of a new direction with it. And they continued down this path, although the second film, I would say, was probably its lowest point, but it also granted its greatest potential for the next one.
Actually, yeah, with Fallen Kingdom, as much as people like to say that's the lowest point, I thought it was a slight step up from the last one. Because with Fallen Kingdom, we have the sense of adventure that's back. I didn't get a sense of adventure at all in Jurassic World. But with Fallen Kingdom, we're going back to that. Yeah. But we've got a volcano that's going to blow.
Yeah. Well, I kind of felt like with Fallen Kingdom, it wasn't so much of an adventure, it was more of an evacuation. Then it became more of this wasn't an evacuation, this is more of okay, we're going to transport them to a secret, like underground black market trading sort of deal.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, at the end of Fallen Kingdom, I would have transported the dinosaurs either to Isla Sorna or one of the 5 Deaths, because Isla Sorna, it's established in the second film, it's part of a chain of islands called the 5 Deaths. Like, you could have taken the dinosaurs either Sorna or one of those other islands.
Here's the thing, though, when you remember from the ending, too, when we brought up the ending, it was a situation of either letting them go, or they die because of the gas. Because remember, because the girl had 2 choices. Or, no, not just the girl, but everyone else in that room had 2 choices. Either let all the dinosaur dies, and that was it, or set them free so they can get out of the gas and be alright, but then at that point they're roaming free throughout the entire continent.
Well, yeah, there was that choice, but I think my version of Fallen Kingdom, if they had given me the script to it, my version of Fallen Kingdom would have been a direct clone of The Lost World Jurassic Park, where we're going to save these animals, and when they get to the island, they don't know for sure when the volcano is going to erupt, but it's like a ticking clock element. We don't know when it's going to erupt, but we're going to try and save as many of the animals as we can. We spend a significant amount of time on said island. We get some dinosaur set pieces and some scenes similar to The Lost World where you see the mercenaries driving through and capturing the animals. And after we spend time doing that, that's when we have the volcano erupt. And then they safely get off the island with the dinosaurs. And then it's revealed midway through the ocean trip, oh, we're not actually getting them to Isla Sorna or one of the other islands. We're gonna take them to Lockwood Estate, but we're not gonna do a black market sort of thing. We're gonna house the real animals in this underground lab, and we're gonna use the real animals to make hybrids, and then we sell the hybrids to the black market. Which they kind of do that somewhat with the Indoraptor, but not entirely.
No, but again, they kind of pushed through the volcano part of it just because you already got to the island because of World. Fallen Kingdom, we're just like, okay, we're done with the island. Let's move on from the island.
I can understand the island getting stale. I can understand that, but it would have just been a nice sort of final goodbye.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they kill the Indoraptor and there's an investigation that reveals what goes on, the UN and the US government's like, well, we're going to send these animals back to Isla Sorna or one of those 5 Death Islands. Mm-hmm. They're going to live out peacefully. There you have it. That would have been my version of Fallen Kingdom, but they didn't do it. And Fallen Kingdom also had a ton of dumb scenes. There's a scene where Owen Grady's recovering from tranquilizer, right? And as he's slowly getting to a log, the lava gets closer and it touches his hand almost, somehow not being scathed or burned, which is really dumb. Then he tries to outrun the pyroclastic flow from the volcano.
Oh yeah.
Somehow survives, which, by the way, you will not survive a pyroclastic flow.
Oh yeah, the whole ashes and stuff like that.
Yeah, you would suffocate or get incinerated
Yeah.
because it's really hot.
Yeah, the heat emanating from it. Yeah.
Then there was the blood transfusion between Blue and the T-Rex, which I don't get how that works.
Apparently DNA matching.
It's just so strange. But yeah, a lot of people said, because I know Film Brain commented on this, that Fallen Kingdom was the worst one in the series.
Yep.
Which, here's the thing, a lot of people for a long time thought Jurassic Park 3 was the worst one in the series. Then Fallen Kingdom comes around, and now Jurassic Park 3 is the better movie, but I never really hated 3.
Well, yeah, but in terms of the World Trilogy, the reason why I said it was, Fallen Kingdom was its lowest, but also had its potential, was because, okay, now since they're all roaming free, now you can make something out of the roaming, dinosaurs.
Yeah, which they tease at the end of Fallen Kingdom, but we don't really get that because this movie is something entirely different. But before we start talking about Dominion, I just want to mention that apparently there were 15 minutes that were cut from this movie.
Oh, the Fallen Kingdom, right? Or
Dominion.
Oh, Dominion.
15 minutes were cut from Dominion.
Maybe they might put that in an extended cut later on.
Yeah, the director has said he wants to get a director's cut out.
Yeah.
He said that, did you ever see the 5-minute prologue they uploaded on YouTube?
I don't think I did. I'll take a look at that, though.
There's a prologue that they screened it in front of Fast and Furious 9 in 2021. But basically, we see dinosaurs in the Cretaceous period in their habitats.
Mm-hmm.
What kills this scene for me is that there is a T-Rex and a Giganotosaurus that meets up, which is impossible because they were separated by 2 continents.
Yeah.
At the time, North America and South America were not connected, so I don't get how they could meet up.
Yeah, that is something. But again, since it is a new world, and since North America and South America is now connected, now it's sort of possible, which is why in Dominion, now they interacted with each other, per se.
Well, the Biosyn brings back the Giganotosaurus, but because the movie had that Ancient Times opening, I just kind of felt like, good thing they cut that prologue, because I would not put it back in the movie.
Yeah.
Because, to me, BBC and Discovery Channel did this far better than what the filmmakers in Universal did.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they have a scene where we see a mosquito drink blood from the T-Rex, which, get it? Because that's how the franchise starts. And then the prologue cut to a T-Rex attacking a drive-in movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
Which, they had that in the trailers. I don't know why they cut it. But I would have put that back in there.
Yeah, well, gruesome for potentially kids. You don't want to have that,
Well, there's no actual, deaths on screen. It's just more like one of those scary scenes. Yeah. And they should have put that back in the movie. Yeah. And then we cut to the news transitioning saying now the dinosaurs are roaming freely, being invasive species. How can we have them interact with humans?
Yep.
And this is where I think we're going to start talking about Dominion.
Yep.
So, I liked this enough. I thought this one was okay, we're not going to try to make this one as bad as the other 2. We're going to try and make it as good as we can make it.
Yep. So
we're going to put in stuff that feels more Jurassic Park, less Jurassic World. And there were a ton of scenes where I felt that.
There were definitely, scenes that made it Jurassic Park. Again, going back to the element of, okay, it's in this one area, or going back to that idea, even though dinosaurs are now roaming the Earth per se. But it goes back to the whole, okay, a lot of them are now caged up or located in this one particular spot.
Yeah, which is Biosyn's Dinosaur Sanctuary. And
yeah.
I like the inclusion of Biosyn because they were in the books.
Yep.
The second book especially. They were a rival company to InGen, and they wanted to get the embryos to catch up on years of research. And so I like that they're finally here, and their boss is Dodson, who, if you remember, Dodson, we got Dodson here! See, nobody cares. And, actually, speaking of Dodson, he wasn't really that interesting of a character.
The antagonist, if I remember correctly, or...
He was the antagonist, yeah. Dodson.
Yeah, Dodson was the antagonist, yeah. Yeah, he wasn't really that memorable, but again, it goes along the line of the world's newer antagonist, per se. But yeah, he wasn't really all that memorable, and he died Basically, kind of very similar to how the other.
Dennis Nedry, because in the original film, Nedry, he gets attacked by a Dilophosaur with all that poison.
Yep.
And same thing happens. It's almost like the Dilophosaurs are saying, we knew your friend Nedry. Now you're going to get what he got.
Yeah, or kind of like, for the entire audience, it's more of, you remember us and how this particular a-hole died? Well, this guy's going to suffer the same fate, but sort of worse.
Yeah.
Instead of one, it's now 4 or a pack.
We got a small pack of Dilophosaurs. Yeah. And those are actually practical effects. They looked really well done.
Yeah, that's for sure, yeah.
And so, like, there's a scene later on. I know we're going to skip all over the place, but there's a scene later on where he has the Barbasol shaving cream can, which, how did he get that?
Don't know, but also he dropped it too while he was running away.
Yeah,
so.
Nedry dropped it in the mud.
Yeah.
And there actually is a Jurassic Park video game that was released for the 360, the PC, and the PlayStation 3.
Oh, yeah.
It was made by Telltale Games, who, if you remember, they've done all those point-and-click games.
Yep.
They did a Batman series. Well, they did a Jurassic Park series, digital download only. But in the game, it's non-canon, but in the game, they actually find the can, and Nedry mauled by the Dilophosaur. They try to get the can back because we want to get this back to Biosyn. They don't in the end, and it ends up getting crushed under the T-Rex's foot.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking throughout this whole time, how did Dodson get that can? Like, did he have a representative go to Isla Nublar and track it down? And I'm sure some tie-in material is going to correct me or something, but I need an in-universe explanation. I don't want to rely on tie-in material for an explanation.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of people kind of feel like when it comes to questions in films that other films couldn't answer, so you have to rely on other materials like comics or books or other material, or other stuff.
And that was, I think, something that actually did hurt this new trilogy, is that there is tie-in material, but I don't want to rely on that. I need an in-universe explanation, and if you can't do that, you're not done good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way for companies, though, to sell and get more profit out of a series or something like that. But, yeah.
And then, with the dinosaurs interacting in the real world, there were actually a few scenes I liked. Outside of the Mosasaur Deadliest Catch thing, which I mentioned at the beginning, we see compies chasing a little girl on a farm, which was a callback to the second film where you see the young girl character getting attacked. Which, by the way, that young girl character actually played a character in 10,000 BC, if you remember that movie.
I don't know. I don't think I did watch that film, actually, the 10,000 BC. I remember watching the trailers for them for sure. But, yeah, I did not. I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the little girl, running around by the little tiny little dinosaurs.
The compies.
Yeah, the compies. Then you also had, the Triceratops roaming around too while the chase team was happening, and then
there were actually a ton of different ceratopsian species. You had Nasutoceratops, Sinoceratops. There were some Triceratops, but not a lot.
Not a lot. But
we also see pterosaurs on top of the Manhattan skyline.
Oh, yeah.
That was a pretty cool visual.
Yep.
The scene with the cheetah chasing a compy, I liked that.
Yeah, because that was interesting, because it brought up the whole idea still of, hey, now old dinosaur could be, a danger to every other predators. Some predators can still thrive off of these.
Yeah, and the idea of dinosaurs being an invasive species, this was something I actually liked. Because we see Blue, she now has a baby called Beta.
Yep.
And you see them in the snowy forest, and they're chasing they're hunting a rabbit.
Yep.
I can almost picture Beta going to her mother, "What are you looking at, Mom?" And the mom's like, "There." And she's like, "What, behind the rabbit?" And she's like, "It is the rabbit." Monty Python reference.
Yeah.
But then there's like a fox that attacks the rabbit, and then they're like, "Hey, that was our kill." And they end up attacking the fox.
To me, that scene kind of reminds me a little bit more of like the more Mufasa and Simba, where it's like, hold it there, little guy. I'm gonna teach you how to hunt, basically.
Oh, the little Lion King comparison.
Little Lion King more comparison, where it's just like, okay, you see that little rabbit right there, and then the Beta was acting, all giddy and excited, but Blue was like, no, because if you get all excited there, little one, you're gonna chase it off.
Yes, that's why I like these predators. They make coordinated attacks, strategy attacks. Really good scene. Speaking of dinosaurs in the snow, actually, there's a scene where we see Owen, and he's with a bunch of ranchers, and they're ranching Parasaurolophuses.
Yeah.
it kind of reminded me of a scene in Pixar's The Good Dinosaur where
Yeah.
these T-Rexes are ranching these like oxes or bulls or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that, but I liked it in this movie more than The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah.
I simply did not like The Good Dinosaur. I felt it's one of Pixar's weaker movies.
Oh yeah.
And so, whenever I see dinosaurs in the snow, I am instantly reminded of Land Before Time 8, The Big Freeze.
All the big freeze. Yeah.
Yeah, I just drew comparisons to that. There's also a scene where we see an apatosaur in the snow among construction crew, and then they lure it away to get it
Yeah.
to safety.
Yeah.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, that was because it's since not all dinosaurs are dangerous, so you don't need to use deadly forces.
Yeah.
So they did other methods.
Yeah, and it turns out there were two of them. It makes you wonder, was there a herd somewhere?
Who knows? Maybe it was a couple or a parent or whatever the case may be. But I don't think it was a parent, but more a couple, I would say, or a relative or whatever the case may be. Anyways, but then we get to the whole other main focus of the story of the movie, which was the family kind of like issue.
The family angle, yeah. Where, if you remember at the end of Fallen Kingdom, they have to hide Maisie from the government because if they get a hold of her, they're gonna do weird science stuff or whatever.
Yeah, which was re-brought up again. The issue was brought up still in this movie, which is good because you have to tie in, still tie in from the previous movie to this one in terms of the issue. But instead of hiding, well, they still hid her, but it became more of a family type of thing.
Yeah, this I didn't mind because they were just trying to protect her.
Yeah.
But she's all like, I don't want to be holed up forever. I want to get out and see stuff.
Yeah.
And I can understand why they want to protect her. Completely understandable. And the way they wrote her angst, I thought it was better for Maisie's character than Zach's character.
Well, yeah, because for her, she grew up in solitary, kind of like the bird in the cage. Like you're hearing one upstairs right now.
I have a pet bird, but don't worry. If you hear him, he's not going to cause any trouble.
No, but that's sort of the thing where it's like the bird wants to go out, and explore a little bit, and that's what she's wanting to be. Is she wants to go out and explore a little bit more. And because she has no idea, and she told she told her parents, you could say adoptive parents at this point.
They're adopted.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, at this point it's the adoptive parents, but that's what she told them. She doesn't know who's good or bad, and she wants to know which ones are good or bad. But her parents are like, everyone's bad.
Well, not everybody's bad. There's good people out there. I mean, the construction workers meant no harm.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. But to their eyes, just to protect her from the government.
Well, it's not necessarily the government. It's more like Biosyn mercenaries or representatives.
Yeah.
And she does get caught, and they eventually get her.
Along with Beta.
Yeah, they kidnap Beta because there's something in her DNA, and we're going to get to that.
Well, it's something that how they were born is basically how the two were born is why they capture both of them.
Oh, yeah, I want to talk about this. So, if you remember at the end of Fallen Kingdom,
Yeah.
Maisie was a human clone.
Yep.
And when this came up, a lot of people, I remember, were like, what? We now have human cloning in this series?
Yep.
No. This movie reveals that she's a clone, yes, but the way she came into the world was kind of strange.
It's a clone, but it was a clone from her mom, but because of the fact that the mom, she got herself pregnant, and basically.
She basically, how did she do it again?
It was kind of like a DNA sort of thing, but she put into herself, basically. So you could almost think of it as a way of, like, not necessarily, I don't know how you could say it, but it's kind of weird because it's more of like imagine giving yourself your DNA, or like a female giving herself her own DNA with some, like some sperm and stuff like that, like all that stuff, injecting herself with it. So it's like going to a clinic, and instead of getting a sperm from another donor or something like that, the other guy with his DNA, she's getting that DNA but from herself. So it's kind of like taking her stuff, her genetics, and then repurposing it for herself, for the baby.
Yeah, it was a little weird, and the way they handled it with the human angle, it's like, okay, so she did this, she wanted to clone herself via asexual reproduction. Then Maisie is born.
Yep.
And then, well, she's got a genetic disease.
No, the
Well, the mom's got the genetic disease,
yeah.
which somehow the mom couldn't figure out how to cure herself for this. She figured out how to cure Maisie, but she couldn't find a cure for herself.
No, because I think what the movie also explained was that in order to replicate this whole sort of thing, she had to herself, the mother in this regard, retool or misalign her other parts of her DNA.
Yeah, take out some DNA and put it in with something else. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, so which caused malfunction within her DNA and thus causing her a short death, basically. Not a long lifespan, basically, from the moment she did it, basically. So she was able to replicate it, but the cost of it was her life, shortening of her life by massive margins, because
Yeah.
the way that she did it shortened her lifespan by insurmountable, just because it's like if you mismatch anything, it's going to cause a lot of malfunctions.
Yeah, that is the case. But a lot of the science stuff that's in this movie, because the first time I saw this, I was questioning if this is something Michael Crichton would write, because he was the author of the original 2 Jurassic Park books.
Yeah.
I'm questioning if he would have liked this movie or if he would have approved of the really weird scientific stuff that's in this film. And
Yeah.
maybe he would have, I don't know,
Yeah.
because he died in 2008, so we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know.
But some people have said this felt like what Michael Crichton would write. Like I saw some reviews say this kind of feels like something Michael Crichton would do.
Yeah, it is sort of weird in how the genetics sort of play out. Which again, by explaining that part of it, they also got to the fact about Beta being able to do that very similar foundation.
Blue was able to do that
Blue.
because they put monitor lizard DNA in
Yeah.
her, and she was able to asexually reproduce and have beta.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, this asexual reproduction by dinosaurs, I was instantly reminded of Godzilla in 1998. In Godzilla in 1998, the monster can reproduce asexually, and it lays a giant nest of like 200 eggs in Madison Square Garden. All the babies hatch, they feed on the fish, but then they are going to get out, and then they're going to probably attack the population of New York.
Yeah.
And that actually, they suggested, was going to be an ecological disaster where you'd have all these Godzillas running around,
Yeah.
and they would have been destroying the earth and stuff. Which, thankfully, they didn't do when the cartoon sequel came around. They had the Godzilla fight other monsters.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different story. I was kind of reminded of that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Almost.
But that was the explanation in the other part of the movie where she got into the laboratory. Meanwhile, while she was in the laboratory, getting taken to the laboratory, and in the laboratory all that sort of stuff was happening, the parents were on the rescue mission, basically.
Yeah, Owen and Claire are going to go rescue Maisie because they obviously don't want something bad to happen to her. But right before we get to that, that's when we're introduced to something that a lot of people have brought up, and they feel this is more of the focus, less on the dinosaurs, the locusts.
Yep, the locust, which was never brought up in terms of the trailer, but they were introduced into this, to the movie.
Well, actually, the second trailer kind of showed a swarm, but the first trailer didn't show any of that from my knowledge.
No, but the second one didn't really have the explanation. It was more of like kind of like showcasing as part of the issues, rather than this was the issue of what was happening, because of the locusts and how they were eating off of the crops, the normal crops, not the bio.
Yeah.
Not the bios, bios.
Biosyn's crops are being preserved because if the locusts attack those crops, because Biosyn wants to control the food supply of the world.
Yep.
Which, by the way, that leads to some uncomfortable thoughts because we're going through a ton of food shortages right now. So it's like, really?
Yeah, especially, I guess when you bring that up, it is kind of like concerning, especially when this sort of issue is brought up to where the food shortage, especially what's happening right now with the Ukrainian, crisis.
Yeah.
Or not, I shouldn't say crisis. Well, it is a crisis, but it's kind of like a war blowing between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't want to bring that up too much, but it's like, that was like too soon, man, too soon, when they do the food shortage angle. But actually with the locusts, I also got another Land Before Time flashback. In Land Before Time 5, they have, well, they call them leaf gobblers, and they eat up all the green in the Great Valley. And so the dinosaurs go out, they have to look for a new place to temporarily live until the green comes back.
Yeah.
And they do. It was kind of like that, and it kind of reminded me of that, but not too much. And considering how giant these locusts were, the first time I saw this, I was like, so now we're cloning stuff from the Carboniferous period, which was before the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That was a time when there were huge bugs,
Yeah.
about the size of your head, your leg,
Yeah.
hawks, huge, or as long as a car.
Yep.
So I'm like, are we cloning stuff from the Carboniferous period? That is not the case.
Yeah.
These are genetically modified insects.
Yeah, where they grow to the size of your head and your legs and stuff like that too. Some of them were, the one that broke in and the kids caught, the little kids caught, they were,
Yeah. So a lot of people who have seen this movie have said, the movie's not focusing on the dinosaurs, it's all about this. And I'm like, well, yeah, but we do get some dinosaur scenes in action here and there.
yeah.
I guess really this is more of the filmmakers kind of running out of ideas, and so we have to come up with something.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know if I really minded the locusts or not.
I didn't mind. I didn't mind it. It was a interesting sort of angle to terms of like, okay, the locusts were the main issue, but because since they were the main issue, it would cause a lot of, food shortages for not just population-wise of humans, but also dinosaurs and other creatures as well, which would mean whoever controls the food, gets, power basically at that point. Which
Yeah.
was what Bio was trying to do.
Yeah, I guess that's the case. But the thing is, Jurassic Park never had anything like this.
No, because Park was more about an adventure, survival, not so much people trying to play, king or emperor per se.
Yeah. And so, with the locust issue, the first person to notice this is Ellie Sattler,
Yeah.
who's played by Laura Dern again.
Yeah.
Nice to see her. And then we get Dr. Grant,
Yeah.
who has not lost his passion of paleontology. He's still doing the same old thing.
Yeah, but
And in his dig site, I actually saw a reference to Jurassic Park 3,
yeah.
that little Velociraptor call thing, where it was like, I think I saw that in his lab upon
Yeah.
repeated viewings.
Yeah. And of course, seems like he's getting lonely.
Yeah, because this is something that I didn't like,
Yeah.
was the whole romantic relationship between Ellie and Dr. Grant.
I mean, you kind of did see that a little bit throughout the Park trilogy a little bit. But
Yeah, but I just didn't really want to see these two get together. I was never shipping them. Not one bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, you did see that though. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, you did see that a little bit though from the Park trilogy. Just that it was so long, and it's just like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, because it's like we're meeting old friends again.
Yeah,
Because in the original film, maybe there was a kind of a hint at something, but I always saw them as like good friends and good
Yeah.
work partners.
Yeah.
Then when the third movie comes around, she's married to a different man and has her kids.
Yep.
Which, by the way, they actually get mentioned in this movie.
Yep, and divorce.
Yeah, because I actually want to defend that in the third movie where she gets together with another man, because in real life, sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah, it just doesn't work out sometimes, or at least at a certain point. I think she did briefly explain why the divorce happened or something like that, but
She just said it was over. She didn't really go into it too much.
yeah, she never went to it too much. Yeah.
And so, like, the thing is, they have a ton of moments where it's clearly like they're gonna get together, and at the very end,
Yeah.
they have a kiss, which I'm like, no. It kind of reminded me too much of Episode 9, where Rey and Kylo Ren have their moments, which, by the way, I feel that was completely done to please the Reylo shippers. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, that did feel somewhat forced.
So I feel like with this, it's like they're doing it again, and it's like, did I really need that?
To each their own, to each their own.
But I guess really, it's more of a reaction to fan complaints that these two didn't get together in Jurassic Park 3. And I feel like the filmmakers were listening to these fan complaints and they were going with it.
Yep, I mean, that is one thing though. sometimes the directors will listen to fans, which a lot of time it is good, just because you do want to appease to the majority of the fans. But there are certain instances, though, to where, you know, what the writers are doing is actually does make sense, and you don't want to really screw with what they're trying to write.
I guess so, but it's just not really something I wanted to see. I'm a different kind of fan, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so, another thing, outside of Locust, another thing I saw in several reviews of this movie is that some people were saying this is Fast and Furious, but with dinosaurs. I do not understand that, except for the Malta scene, where they're getting chased by the Atrociraptors.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's where it picked up the more of the Fast and Furious, was from that point when they had the from the
FBI or the CIA.
Working with the FBI all the way to the plane, launching up and taking off, was a good chunk of it were Fast and Furious-esque, just because you have investigative going on, okay, you're getting to the heated point, okay, now got to point of contact where they came out, and then releasing of the Raptors, and then actually, it wasn't more releasing the Raptors quite yet at that point. Guns were fired, and then the trucks were getting away, and everyone's in hot pursuit, basically.
Yeah, this is a very high-octane action sequence, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was very chaotic.
Yeah.
But there was something that did happen later on, and before we get to that, we get to this dinosaur black market in Malta. I like the idea of a dinosaur black market because it plays into illegal poaching, illegal trading.
Yeah.
Cool idea, and it's explored fine enough.
It is, and it also shows you the dark, the bad effects too of dinosaur black market too.
There were some good effects in this black market where I could tell what was practical and what was CGI.
Yeah. Well, also too, at the same time, in a scenario to where, what if one of them breaks out or multiple of them breaks out, and that caused a good amount of deaths.
Yeah. And so I would assume that this entire black market got shut down because the FBI tracked them down or whatever.
I would imagine being a FBI plus when a couple dangerous animals were released, and there was a good amount of deaths. I don't think a lot of guys, good or bad, don't want to go there.
Yeah. Oh, and I also feel like this scene had a missed opportunity where we see a Carnotaur and an Allosaur get out into like the center of the Malta city during that chase sequence. Complete missed opportunity to have a Carnotaur and an Allosaur fight.
Yeah, but I think they were just roaming, and since they were free and they're predators, they probably saw a lot more food, so they probably were focusing more on the plentiful of food rather than fighting.
But you would think the two predators would fight over who's going to get the most food.
I mean, if you're hungry, you'd rather. I guess you could do it that way, which they sort of did that in the ending of the film. But when there's that many food around, I guess you can't really. Those at that point, it's like more of, okay, let's just do our fair share, and if we're trying to go after the same one, then we'll fight.
Something like that. And with the Malta action sequence, actually, see, when I saw the trailers for this movie and I saw that action sequence, I'm like, I kind of feel like the filmmakers saw the San Diego attack sequence at the end of The Lost World. They might make an entire movie out of that. That wasn't the case.
It was more of a big sequence right there, part of a big sequence.
Yeah.
Which, again, was back to the full Fast and Furious type sequence, and then the Velociraptors who were trained...
Trociraptors.
These aren't
Velociraptors.
Not Velociraptors, but Trociraptors who were trained for where it's like ding, ding, pinging a person.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to get your attack canines.
Yeah. You ping the target, and then you set them loose, and then they'll kill it.
Yeah, I liked that. They trained these animals, because there's a line where... I forget this character's name. Yeah. It was a Sonyata or something.
Yeah, the female, yeah.
She's basically a black market dealer.
Yep.
But she says, hybrid dinosaurs cannot be trained loyally. You have to nurture it.
Yeah.
I like that line because it's like you can train a normal animal. With a hybrid, it's a little more challenging.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I really liked about this movie was there were no hybrid dinosaurs in this.
No.
Because I was concerned if they were going to do more of those.
Yep.
Because I remember when Jurassic World came out, they had a specific toy line where there were these hybrid dinosaurs, and they looked really strange and weird.
Yeah.
So I'm happy they didn't do that. I didn't mind the Indominus Rex or the Indoraptor, because those at least still looked like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Were they monstrous? Yeah, but at the same time, I just kind of feel like these are what hybrid-like dinosaurs could realistically look like if you didn't go super crazy.
Yeah,
So I'm happy that they didn't do that and we went back to real dinosaurs in this movie.
that's for sure. Yeah, and of course they finally got to the end sequence of the plane and then taking off, and now they also figure out where where Manny is going.
Where she's going.
Yeah.
She's going to Biocen,
Yep.
which they've actually established a dinosaur sanctuary
Yeah.
in the Dolomite Mountains, which is in Italy,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. So they travel there. I guess the entire cast basically all travel there.
Yeah, I actually like the idea of a dinosaur sanctuary because it's about as close to the island as we're going to get.
Yeah. Plus, it's also at the point, if it, since it was in Italy, basically sort of like in that mainland-ish type of area
Yeah,
where all the dinosaur kind of like grew up area, or started out basically.
yeah. And so the first dinosaur we see in the sanctuary is a Dreadnoughtus,
Yeah.
which is this massive titanosaur.
Yeah.
It's one of the titanosaurs. So when we see it in the lake,
Yeah.
this was probably one of the best visual effects shots in the movie.
It was really nice.
It was really good CGI. It felt like it was really there.
Yep.
Which is a ton of CGI sequences in this movie. I feel like they were there, and they weren't computer graphics, and I was
Yeah.
looking at a real animal.
Yeah.
I like that they at least put more effort into the CGI here than
Yeah.
they did with the other two.
Yep. That's for sure.
We also see other creatures. We see Quetzalcoatlus,
Mhm.
biggest pterosaur. That attack sequence on the plane, that actually felt like something that would belong in the original trilogy.
That did for sure in the park, especially I remember in 3 where they were taking off and then all of a sudden they had a bad sequence at the taking off or whatever, which they crashed again into the jungles.
Because they hit the Spinosaurus. But in the third movie, we had the Pteranodon attack sequence in the aviary. Great sequence, by the way.
Yep.
I did not like the redesign of the Pteranodons in the new movies because they were not consistent with what we saw in the previous films. The previous films, I feel, was a definitive look for the Pteranodons,
Yeah.
whereas the new movies Pteranodons, they could be a subspecies. I just did not like the look of them.
Yeah.
But with the Quetzalcoatlus, I like that it's in here. I like that it gets a sequence dedicated to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they eject Claire out of the plane,
Yeah.
and when she gets out, she crashes in the jungle where she sees a deer. And then, I like this scene. The dinosaur in that scene was a Therizinosaurus,
Yeah.
the dinosaur with the claws.
Oh yeah, the long claws. It was like a herbivore, but it had long enough claws to defend itself.
Yeah, because it is a herbivore dinosaur,
Yeah.
and it swatted away that deer. It's like, get out of the way, this is my area, or something like that.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, a type of thing that we had to be worried about getting eaten by. It was more of a worry about getting stabbed or swatted.
Yeah, because I like the idea that the Therizinosaurus is easily provoked.
Yeah.
Like, there's animals out there in the real world that are easily provoked. This is one of them.
Yeah.
And so Claire is like, I don't want to get caught by this thing. So she goes into this algae-filled pond.
Which, and I don't know if she did or didn't, when she's like crawling in and sneakily going into the water, realized that creature was also noticed her and followed her very slowly too. And I was thinking, like, does she not know, or does she know that she's being followed by said creature?
Well, maybe she can hear it behind her or something.
Yeah.
But I actually like this scene because it feels like something that would belong in the original trilogy.
Yeah. And of course she got underneath, and then he went, where the heck did she go? Or sort of somewhat followed as, of a path that she would go, then stopped midway through, yelled, and then kind of like left. Although the angle how they did it too had a, you could say, poster jaw sort of,
Between the water and the land.
yeah, but in reverse.
I never really got a Jaws comparison out of that.
It was more of a poster, kind of like a flip per se. So instead of like Jaws coming up from underneath the water and the lady was swimming, it's now the lady or like a female underwater trying to hide, and then you have this creature with the like the mouth opening it up per se.
I can see where you're coming from. I just never got the comparison out of that.
No, I just thought it was like kind of like one of those like for me it was like that looks like Jaws but in reverse, and not so much of that creature being a threat to eating the thing or eating the said human, but more of a it could still pose a harm.
And so after that, then we I think we cut back to Owen Grady and Kayla Watts, she was actually a decent character.
Yeah, with the pilot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Too.
So they get out of the plane, somehow surviving that crash into the ice.
Yeah, and surprisingly too, I can imagine since the pilot, the front of the ship was underwater, so it was also surprising that their seatbelt wasn't stuck or not working to get out. But if they're able to get out, I can then still see the fact that they could still swim up to the back of the ship or back of the plane and then get out through there.
Yeah, that's the case. So when they get out, they're attacked by a pyroraptor.
Yep, and
that's what it was. It's a pyroraptor.
Yep, and then it was able to swim underneath water, and it was like, oh god, that's such a disadvantage. But they were able to get out of it, and then...
Yeah, they get out of it, but I actually liked that sequence, the pyroraptor attack sequence.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it could have been in the original trilogy almost.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Could have been.
But I also liked how some of the creatures in this movie had feathers. Because there's the theory that dinosaurs had feathers on their bodies.
Yeah.
So I like that we're seeing a little more of that, because we kind of got a little bit of that in Jurassic Park 3, where the raptors had the quills on their heads.
Oh, yeah.
Or pin feathers, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But in this one, we have more feathered creatures. You had the Therizinosaurus, the Pyroraptor, and I guess that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't see any more feathered... Well, no, the Morris Intrepidus, that little thing where it ate the mouse and the little tank thing, had a little bit of feathers on it.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. But also what I like in the movie, too, in terms of, the main cast, is everyone there at Biosyn for different reasonings, per se.
Yeah, Dr. Malcolm's there because he's employed, I would say.
Yeah, he's sort of employed, but he's also part of one of the two members who are the that whistleblower. Per se.
He and I forget who the other character was. I don't remember his name.
The other dude that kind of gave Dr. The two Grant and
Ellie Sattler.
Ellie Sattler the tour basically. But if you remember, he was technically an undercover FBI agent.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got a little bit of that.
Yeah, because you remember the guy who was also the part of the main character of Fallen Kingdom. He brought up a couple of his agents, that was in line basically, or were on duty basically. One of them being the guy that that was given the tour.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Dr. Malcolm's role in this film. See, I don't know if he got the best role in this movie. I feel like Dr. Grant had the best role. Because Dr. Grant has been consistent for the most part. Sattler's consistent with Jeff Goldblum's character, which is Ian Malcolm. Yeah. This felt like a different character, kind of. But he wasn't playing the same character I remember from the first two movies.
Or even the first three,
he wasn't in the third one.
But the first two for sure. Well, also you gotta remember too, since he is employed, that he had to stay professional in terms of what his company was trying to do, and since he was part of the whistleblower and still trying to make sure the whole thing of getting something out to the public or something like that, so that way he can take the business out of it, he had to keep that undercover sort of thing intact for as long as he can.
Yeah. Well, I appreciated seeing the top three players of the original trilogy back. Mm-hmm. The main issue that I have is that they have their screen time, but I don't think they get enough of it.
Well, because you also had now played the old cast, but the new cast as well. You have to go back and forth between the old and the new. Yeah,
because there's a lot of things going on in this movie, and we have to sort of intersect them all together.
Yeah, because the old cast is trying to get the sample, basically, and get it back to the public, basically, to throw evidence that, hey, these locusts are bad. The new cast is trying to save their daughter, basically, and Beta, too, and try to get them back to,
Yeah,
I mean, to get back home, basically.
I think really, if you were going to bring back other old cast members, you could have brought back Dr. Sarah Harding. You could have brought back Vince Vaughn's character, but he does comedies these days. Yeah. Well, actually, no, Vince Vaughn's not as popular as he once was, but he does. You could have brought back one of Ian Malcolm's kids in the second movie. You could have brought back Kelly. I don't know how you could have brought back Eric Kirby from the third film.
Yeah, I don't know either. But at the same time, with the old and the new, they both have different objectives, but they also somehow intertwine with each other because the old cast, with with the girl, they didn't remember her mom per se, which
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this stuff with Maisie's mom and Lockwood, none of this had been planned since the original trilogy.
yeah, because I was like, I don't remember if Lockwood ever had any screen time at all.
Yeah, like none of this was planned at all. It's like many people said it's a retcon,
Yeah.
and it kind of is, because I'm just sitting there going like, none of this was planned. This is all stuff they came up with.
Yeah, I was like thinking like, when in the park timeline did they ever meet up with Lockhart?
They never, because he was not invented at the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like, speaking of stuff from before, apparently ever since the third film, they were planning on bringing dinosaurs to the mainland. Early script drafts of Jurassic Park 3 wanted the dinosaurs on the mainland.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which is for the best.
Yeah.
Because dinosaurs on the mainland is something. If you're going to do it, at least do it in a way where the dinosaurs are still kind of in sanctuaries or like national parky areas of sorts. But no, they're roaming all over the place again with the invasive species.
Yeah.
What I was concerned about with the main characters was I was concerned they were going to kill one of these characters.
Yeah, you have too many, well, you have the old and the new, and you have too many of them in a dangerous environment, and it was growing even more dangerous, that it was kind of hard to say, how much plot armor were you going to keep throwing in, basically? Like, how strong is that plot armor going to hold, basically, before it gets to the point of saying, oh, okay, this is getting way too ridiculous? Like, how creative can you get of getting a lot of the main cast to survive without throwing in the whole plot armor reasoning, or just solely that?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, they killed off Han Solo, they killed off Luke Skywalker, which I really hated that.
Well,
and then with Princess Leia, well, I mean, obviously because Carrie Fisher passed away and they had to figure something out.
That's true.
With this movie, I was concerned they were going to kill off the characters I loved.
Yeah.
And we were going to get the spotlight from somebody else. That didn't happen, but they come very close to it in one of the most tension scenes in the movie where the Giganotosaurus attacks them at like an outpost. This was a really good scene, by the way. Another scene I felt would have been in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Where the Giganotosaurus, it attacks them, and it sort of goes around the car, sniffing them out. Then it like bites the cage that protects the ladder.
Yeah.
Then Dr. Malcolm gets his torch out like he did in the original film to drive it away. Then he throws the spear into its mouth and then it breathes fire.
Yeah.
Which I got flashbacks to Grimlock, leader of the Dinobots.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was concerned during that scene they were going to kill one of the characters, and it was a very tension-filled scene.
Yeah.
The Giganotosaurus attack sequence. Speaking of which, I actually want to talk about the Giganotosaurus.
Yeah.
This, I feel like, we're 6 movies in, we're finally introducing this creature.
Mm-hmm.
Its design, really like it.
Yep.
It's got kind of this crocodilian-like look to it, almost.
Oh, yeah?
It's got scales and spikes. It's obviously bigger than the T-Rex. And I like the idea of 2 alpha predators fighting it out over dominance.
Yep.
Because the T-Rex and the Giganotosaurus are rivals.
Yep.
That first scene where we see the T-Rex biting a deer carcass, or is going to eat a deer carcass, and the Giganotosaurus comes in, they fight. Really good fight scene.
Yeah.
And it's driven away.
Yeah.
That was like watching a documentary almost.
Yeah.
The larger predator roars first or wins.
Yeah.
Really good scene.
Yeah.
However, the Giganotosaurus, despite having a good design, I don't think it had a lot of memorable roars.
No, but you do remember it from its size and tenacity too a little bit. Also, its slower movability without making that much of an instinct per se.
You would think a larger predator would have this roar that
Yeah.
sends fear into you. Because think the Spinosaurus, for instance. The Spinosaurus is bigger than the T-Rex.
Yeah.
And yet it has a sound I remember quite well. And if I heard that, I would want to run.
Yeah.
Whereas with this dinosaur, it really doesn't have that memorable of a sound.
Of a roar, no, but for its size and its movement, it is sort of like, uh-oh. but you do know you could outrun it. But if it's in your vicinity, you're probably dead.
Yeah, this thing was truly a terrifying creature to look at. Because the Walking With series had their own design of Giganotosaurus.
Yeah.
Really good, and I like this design too.
Yeah.
I think early on I saw early sketches and designs for this. It took me a while to get used to, but once I saw this thing in the movie, really well done.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if the Giganotosaurus was a hard sell. Like, the filmmakers are going, okay, we're making another Jurassic movie, and one of the star dinosaurs is going to be Giganotosaurus. And the producers are like, what? And then he's like, Giganotosaurus. What's that? I thought T-Rex was the only big... No, there's other big predators outside of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we have not seen Tarbosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus in this series. Tarbosaurus is the Asian T-Rex, and Carcharodontosaurus lived on the same continent as the Spinosaurus, that'd be Africa. And that was bigger than the T-Rex, so why haven't we seen that? I have no idea.
Yeah. Probably won't be in World because I kind of figured the way that it ended should just be it.
Yeah, that's another thing, too, is like, this movie, they say it's the ending, they say it's the conclusion. That's what was in the marketing. But here's the thing. This movie's made enough money that Universal might consider making more.
Yeah, I don't know how, but, you know, the way how it ended, and you do not want to you don't want to keep squeezing the bottle, basically.
Unless in the next movie they start cloning woolly mammoths, because I've heard in the news they might want to bring back woolly mammoths.
That's becoming more of a different movie at that point, or a different show.
Yeah, pretty much. I even joked that if they clone woolly mammoths in the next Jurassic movie, we might see Manny, Diego, and Sid from Ice Age make a cameo.
Okay.
Which they'd have to pay Disney some money to get the characters in there.
Anyways.
But I kind of feel like, you know, they really shouldn't make any more, because this movie, in my mind, is another victim of franchise fatigue. Where it's been around for a while, and it's like, I'm kind of bored with it, and I want something new.
Well, it's also the fact that there's not the thing with Jurassic Park and / World is how much can you do in terms of the cast and everything else like that.
That was
or
actually
how much content.
That was actually the focus of the negative reviews, is that this franchise has run its course. There's not much else you can do with it.
Yeah.
I think really what I would have done is with this movie, it's set entirely in the dinosaur sanctuary because we don't spend enough time in there. Because you know how the first 3 movies, we have our mainland scenes, but then we get to the island, and that's when things get interesting?
Yeah.
That's what should have happened, but not quite.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're almost there, and maybe with some more drafts and rewrites, we could have had something that's closer to the original 3, but we didn't necessarily get that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the big issue with these Jurassic World movies, is like, I feel like they had the potential, but the draft they went in, it needed more rewrites before the cameras could get rolling.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely issues in terms of like a lot of movies, but what's done is what's done, basically, for the most part.
Yeah.
There's not really any sort of way that you could remake a movie like how, you know, video games, you could remake a game per se.
Yeah, with game remakes, you just take the game, update the graphics, basically make the same game with maybe some changes.
Yeah.
But with movie remakes, it's like, well, we're going to change some things.
But it's kind of hard to do because it's like, well, the movie's already there.
Except there is one good example of a remake where it respects the original and pays tribute to it. And it was actually, I think a part of our Dinosaur Foundation was the King Kong remake from 2005.
Oh, from King Kong to Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, the King Kong remake, which Peter Jackson directed.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of dinosaurs. We have this exotic island full of all these fantastical creatures. And so I feel like, because that was a part of our foundation, is that Peter Jackson loves the original so much. He respected it, paid tribute to it, and gave us a very entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Whereas with the World films, we don't necessarily get a tribute or an homage of sorts. We're just kind of, we're going to continue the story, but it's just not what I would have done.
Yeah, it is,
And so I feel like the kids nowadays growing up with these movies, it's like they're just not going to get the hype that I had with Jurassic World.
Yeah. And it's going to be a little bit harder too. And again, with remaking movies or series or whatever the case may be, it is a lot more harder to do than it is for like a video game.
Yes. Speaking of homage, actually, there's there's an homage to the logo of Jurassic Park in this movie.
Yep.
We see the T-Rex go to like a circular arch.
Yep.
Its face like faces this way,
Yep.
replicating the logo almost as if you put flesh on the bones.
If you see the shirt right there that he's wearing, that's basically how the dinosaur was, basically.
Yeah, I didn't like this. I did not like this fan service one bit. Because it's not something I would do, per se.
But it's a nice little, like, again, you could say homage or
An homage.
to the logo, to the series, or to the franchise as a whole of like, here's the T-Rex right in front of this little particular circle that looks exactly like the logo, and he's going to look at this particular angle and kind of do that particular look.
Mm. Another thing I didn't like was the end fight sequence between the Giganotosaurus and the T-Rex.
Yep, and with the third party involved,
The Therizinosaurus.
Yep, getting right into the thick of it. And
it's basically the same thing as in Jurassic World where the Velociraptor and the T-Rex team up.
Yeah, but except the difference is it wasn't like a 30 seconds, it became more of a 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Giganotosaurus and the T-Rex fight, which, by the way, we're focusing more on the humans while this fight's going on, and the scene is shot in a dark way where it's kind of hard to tell unless you got light shining on them.
Well, because, I mean, well, you did have a little bit of light because fire was burning up the forest, because the
locusts, Dodson wanted to destroy the evidence,
Yeah.
and so they get out, they start burning things up.
Yeah, you should have closed up your air vents or whatever before burning things up, because that's how they got up and caused a ruckus.
But he didn't think that one out.
No, he did not.
So yeah, the Giganotosaurus overpowers the T-Rex, and you think the T-Rex is gonna die or it's dead because the Giganotosaurus makes a victory roar,
Yep.
similar to how the Spinosaurus did it in Jurassic Park 3.
Yep.
And then the Therizinosaurus comes in, starts clawing and fighting. Then they focus on the T-Rex because I'm sure the filmmakers are like, if we kill the T-Rex again, there might be a backlash from fans.
Kind of like how what happened in the third one.
Yeah.
But before that, he made that crushing thing. The pilot did shoot the flare. He did get distracted, which then
Brings out the Therizinosaur,
out of the shadows and was like, "All right, let's duke it out a little bit."
and then they fight.
Yep. And then that's when the T-Rex kind of was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, then it gets back up, and then it attacks the Giganotosaurus, and it thrusts it into the Therizinosaur's claws, stabbing it. Then it falls down, and they both get a victory roar.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like that way too, because they didn't go had that look of like they want to continue the fighting. Also, that sequence too, it was kind of like the Giganotosaurus was like, kind of like that whole it's kind of like that, when it's like the three-way kind of like duel or whatever, where you have to look back and forth. But then you have the one guy, the T-Rex, looking at the other person. He was like, "Do you really want to tussle this out between the three of us here?" And then he's like, "What do you want me to do?" It is just like, "Hold it right there." Okay. All right. And then he knocks the Gigasaurus right to it. He's like, "What did you do?" He's like, "There you go."
Yeah, but the thing is, I just find it so unrealistic that a Therizinosaurus and a T-Rex would team up to take on Giganotosaurus. It's so unrealistic.
Have you heard the phrase, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend"?
Yes, I have.
There you go.
I guess I'd have to figure that one out. But what I would have done is just have the Therizinosaurus and the Giganotosaurus fight. Just those two. Because we have a T-Rex, but we got other star dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Just have those two fight,
Yeah.
Because in one of the Walking with Dinosaurs specials, we have a Therizinosaurus fight a Tarbosaurus.
Yeah.
The Therizinosaurus wins by clawing the Tarbosaur. You see blood come out of the cheek, and the Tarbosaurus backs away.
Yep.
I would have preferred that, and maybe you could have had the Therizinosaurus kill the Giganotosaurus without the help of the T-Rex. I just don't know why the director felt the need to do that again.
Well, in this instance, it was more of a, since he didn't really finish the job, the T-Rex was able to get up, and again, having a three-way, duel, it was going to be whoever was the bigger threat, which at the time looks like it was, at that point of time, it was the Giga, because the Giga did beat down the T-Rex, and Giga would have probably handled, the other one fairly handily, even with the claws, scraping out, but it would have came out victorious. So it's like 3, 2, and 1, and 2 and 3 decide to somewhat do a team up, but it wasn't basically agreed upon. It was more of like, all right, are you gonna do something? Are you gonna focus on me? Are you gonna focus on him? Are you gonna focus on him? Okay, bonk.
I just kind of would have done the scene differently, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ending scenes where we see the dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures coexisting with other animals.
Yeah.
I like the scene of the Parasaurolophus herd running with the horses.
Oh yeah.
I like the scene of the pterosaurs flying with other birds. I like seeing one of the sauropods in what I think is the redwood forest.
And you also have the elephants and the
elephants and the Sinoceratops
Yeah.
in the African wilderness. Really like that. The one scene I had an issue with was the mosasaur swimming with the whales.
Oh, because you would have thought that because of the eating, yeah.
It would attack the whales. It wouldn't peacefully swim with them.
Yeah.
Because take the megalodon, for instance. The megalodon was a prehistoric gigantic shark,
Yeah.
but it's also known as a whale killer.
Yeah.
You would not see a megalodon swimming with the whales. It would
Eat it.
actually attack those things. So
Yeah.
I feel like with the mosasaur, good visual shots, just not would have had it swimming peacefully with whales.
Yeah.
And the mosasaur is barely in this movie.
Yeah.
Probably because it has no purpose.
Well, because you're kind of in the mainland or on land for the most part. Why would you need a sea creature in a mostly, mainland type of scenario?
Yeah, I think the last creature I want to bring this creature up before we wrap this video up is the Dimetrodon. That scene in the amber mines where they're outrunning the sail creatures. Those are Dimetrodon.
Yep.
Those things existed way before the dinosaurs did.
Yeah.
So I feel like kids are going to watch this scene and they're going to mistake those creatures for dinosaurs like I did as a kid. And then they're going to find out, oh, these aren't dinosaurs. They came before them. There's something else.
Well, I mean, that's why they were kind of like secluded, you could say, from the rest of the dinosaurs per se. But at the same time, it was like the starters before the dinosaurs, though.
Yeah, but I liked the scene featuring the Dimetrodons because it's a scene I would have done in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Where we're in this cave system and we got to get away from these creatures that could potentially eat us.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think, there's a lot of scenes in this movie I really like. I feel like there's a ton of scenes that feel like they would have belonged in the original trilogy.
Yep.
Which, why did I not get this feeling with the other Jurassic World movies? I have no clue.
Yeah. Well, again, because the other previous two, they had a lot more focus, a little bit more focus on the science rather than the adventure. Whereas the third one, since the dinosaur were kind of like into the world, the adventure, you could put the adventure in it.
Yeah, this one had more adventure feel than the other two
Yeah.
did. But I guess really it's like, I mean, I feel like Colin Trevorrow, the director of this movie, he didn't make these with a love of dinosaurs in mind. He wanted to do more science-y stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, it's just, it needs a balance with the adventure and all the dinosaur aspects.
Well, yeah.
And Steven Spielberg understood this very well with his first two movies. Joe Johnston, when he did the third one, he didn't quite have all the science stuff, but he still knew how to make a fun movie.
Yeah.
Even if Jurassic Park 3 had a ton of production problems, it's still a fun movie.
Yeah. But again, once the liberation of dinosaurs from the second Fallen Kingdom was out on display, that's where the freedom and the adventure kind of came out to play, with still science being a major part of the whole, still part of the world of the trilogy.
Yeah, I think really, because of all the reviews I've heard of this movie, the internet's been extremely negative about this movie. I saw 3 out of 10s, 1 out of 10s, and I mean, this is this is not the worst thing I've ever seen. This isn't even the worst Jurassic movie I've ever seen.
Well, you brought up the fact that a lot of negativity came from false advertisement.
Yeah, people were like, well, there's going to be a globe-trotting adventure. The dinosaurs are now in our environment. What kind of effects is that going to have? They haven't quite... they didn't do that. They did the locust thing, which was completely unexpected. Yeah. But I think because I had such low expectations the first time around, I was kind of surprised with this one.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is there was a fan theory that I thought they were going to go with in this movie.
And that was...
When Owen Grady and Alan Grant meet up for the first time, Grady's like, I read your book, big fan.
Yeah.
And then Grant's like, hey, I know you. You're the guy that trained raptors.
Oh, yeah?
But then I was going to be like, and I also remember... Or no, Owen Grady's like, I met you in your dig site many years ago. Remember when I said 6-foot turkey?
Yeah.
Because I remember when Jurassic World came out,
yeah.
There was a fan theory that kid who says 6-foot turkey, and then Grant lectures him, that kid grows up and becomes Owen Grady. And I'm like, they're almost going to do that, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like they were going to do that, but I mean, maybe they should have. it would have been kind of interesting.
It would have, yeah. It would have been interesting.
There was actually a weird thing the director also said about the Giganotosaurus with this film. He says the Giganotosaurus is like, he's comparing it to the Joker, saying it wants to see the world burn, and I'm like, where'd you get that?
I don't know how dinosaurs would want to see the world burn, because they want to thrive.
Yeah, Colin Trevorrow's compared the Giganotosaurus to the Joker, and I'm like, where did you get that? That's like one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, I know. It's like comparing a predator to a dictator. Where did you get that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his thinking process was. It's so strange. And, I mean, I think really, for the most part, I liked this enough. There were some issues I had with it. It's basically franchise fatigue. There were things I would have done differently.
Yeah.
This movie needed some more drafts before we could get the cameras rolling. But I was kind of surprised with that.
Yeah.
I felt it was better than World and Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, Jurassic World is easily the worst of the Jurassic films.
For me, it was Fallen Kingdom a little bit, just because it got away. It went more black markety per se, and a lot of other things too, where it kind of went away for it. It became more scientific-y rather than it became way more scientific-y in Fallen Kingdom rather than like a little bit more of the adventure per se. Which World, the first one, did had some adventures, even though it was compromise or kind of like in this island per se, but it still had an adventure per se.
For me, it's like Jurassic World. It was supposed to be a major comeback, and it didn't really. I didn't get a sense of adventure. I was just watching a movie. It was not a reflection of every dinosaur-loving thing I had as a kid, And I just, it could have been so much more, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was basically to Jurassic Park what the Phantom Menace was to Star Wars, and that we had a lot of expectations and hype, and it just didn't live up to it.
Yeah.
And then with Fallen Kingdom, I thought it was slightly better. It's still got a ton of problems, but it is what it is, I guess. I would have done things differently in Fallen Kingdom. And this one, there's a little more things I liked.
Yeah.
Probably less stuff that I didn't like. But again, I would have done things differently. Like, if they just given me the scripts before they had the cameras rolling, I could have easily fixed up a ton of the problems.
A lot of people would have wanted to have a script on some things and change up a lot of things. But we'll never know, like, if one idea is better than the other. So,
yeah, but I think for me, this is not the worst thing I've seen all year. Because I saw movies earlier this year that were not as good as Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
Like, remember when we saw Moonfall? That was bad.
Don't remind me.
Sorry, that was a bad experience for both of us. Easily the worst disaster film Roland Emmerich's ever done.
Yeah.
And then Morbius, I thought, is one of those bad movies of this year.
That one I didn't sort of mind.
I mean, it's not, maybe it's not the worst thing ever made, but it's just not that good of a movie.
Yeah.
Because this one, people are saying, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's a disgrace, and it's like, I really don't think so.
No.
I think this movie was just trying to basically not be as bad as the other two, try to be about as good as we can make it, or try to have enough things that you'll like in it that you'll be like, okay, I can forgive this a bit. Because when Star Wars Revenge of the Sith came out, Episode 3, that one I felt was better than the other two prequels, because it's like George Lucas was like, okay, there's stuff you didn't like about the other two, I'm going to try and reduce all that and try to make an entertaining movie, and he did.
Yeah. But he still had to, again, come up with had to wrap up the story of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader still. Because he still had to build up the whole, or try to conclude the storyline of Anakin becoming Darth Vader, which was the big sort of question after the originals. Because in the originals, 4, 5, and 6, because it's like, well, why is it 4, 5, and 6? What happened during the Clone Wars? Who was Darth Vader before Darth Vader, and everything else like that. Because a lot of it came up in Episode 4, and it brought up again in 5 when Vader said, I'm your father, Luke, and then they talked more about the parenting in 6, but the main question kind of brought up in 4, which was, you were fought in the Clone Wars? It's like, the what?
Yeah, I remember that line. You fought in the Clone Wars, which they expanded on, and the Clone Wars was actually a pretty good era for Star Wars, looking back on it.
It is in terms of the moviegoers, like, because with the Clone Wars, there's a lot of things that happen in Clone Wars, not just for the for the Republic standpoint and the Confederacy in terms of trying to fight for rights and stuff like that too. And then it got expanded upon too, just because of going into detail about certain battles and certain things that happened in the Clone Wars. And then the most in-depth in terms of the Clone Wars era, which was Order 66.
Yeah.
Operation Nightfall, if you play Battlefront 2 and play some other things too, because in Battlefront 2, you remember from the original...
the 501st campaign.
The 501st campaign. Right before you play as the Empire, the last mission you play as the Clone ARC Troopers was Operation... Well, they call it
That's where you go into the Jedi Temple and they, eradicate the Jedi.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to pick up on, what that operation was.
Yeah, it was called Operation Nightfall in terms of Order 66, basically. Yeah, Operation Nightfall, Order 66, eradicating of all the Jedis and hunting them down, basically, because they did head a chip, and that was basically also the more of the ingrained, in-depth type of things that have been talked about too.
Yeah.
In terms of the Clone Wars, not just in the Clone Wars, but in between the ending of the Clone Wars, which was Episode 3, and from the beginning of Episode 4, was Order 66. Was being so much talked about, so much in depth. It's getting to the point of kind of World War II type of level. You know how World War II, it's like this massive war. You have this big sequence right in the middle with the whole Germany and the Jews, sort of that.
Yeah, I can see where you're getting at.
Yeah, that's sort of that whole sequence, except the difference was, that was during the war, and of course they got rescued.
Yeah.
Whereas Order 66, it was at the ending of the war, and thus causing the Republic go from the Republic to the Empire. And then the eradication of the Separatists.
Alright. So I think the last thing I want to talk about is, how would you rank the Jurassic Park movies based on the 6 we have so far?
So Park and World.
Yeah, how would you rank all 6 films? Because I know how I would rank these.
You probably have 4 and 5 right at the bottom.
Yeah, right at the very bottom, because I just wanted the 4th one to be so much more, and I didn't deliver. For me, Dominion's the best of the World films. I'm going to put Jurassic Park 3 above all the World films, because Jurassic Park 3 is still in line with the other 2 movies, and it still understands dinosaurs, adventure, 2 things that go very well together, and doesn't do anything too ridiculous, too science-y, but still feeling like, you're on the big adventure of a lifetime. I'm torn between the original Jurassic Park and The Lost World, because I like them both, and obviously Steven Spielberg is such a fantastic filmmaker.
Yeah, so I could imagine just having the original parks being higher, 1, 2, 3 being up there in terms of the worlds. So you had 4, 5, and 6, 4, 5 being the last 2, then 6 being right there, and then 3, 2, 1 being the originals.
Yeah.
I take it for you. I would probably... Oh, that's a little bit tricky because the first 2 were really good, that is for sure. Jurassic Park 1, I probably would have to put up there as 1. 2, I remember 2 a little bit, but it was a solid film, don't get me wrong. 3 was a little bit memorable to me just because of the Spinosaurus.
There were a ton of other memorable scenes, like the Pteranodons.
Yeah. But, I would honestly put Dominion probably still up. It is better than the first 2, that is for sure. But Dominion, it's kind of I would have to debate between Jurassic Park 3 or 2, kind of in that order. I would still have Jurassic Park 1 being the top one. 4 and 5 would have to be the bottom one for me still, but I'm not gonna throw I'm not gonna throw dirt into the, or kick dirt into the 4 and 5 because I did enjoy those type of movies. Even though 5 Fallen Kingdom is probably the lowest one, and then 4, but I'm not gonna throw dirt on it too much per se. I know you would throw dirt on 4 and 5.
Yeah, I would, because 4, I'd have to make a full-fledged review to explain what the hype meant to me, and how it all came crashing down, and how it really hurt the Dinosaur Foundation I had. Because I feel like these world films have hurt the foundation that I grew up with, but there is someone that did save the foundation as of late, Genndy Tartakovsky, his Primal TV show.
Oh,
Because Primal, I saw the trailer for season 2, by the way. It looks awesome, and I'm going to tune in for that. But I feel like Genndy Tartakovsky understands dinosaurs and adventure are two things that go very well together. He's incorporating all the skills he had from Samurai Jack and all the other things he did throughout his career. He's putting it all here, and he's giving us his best.
yeah.
But he still understands you're in this big, fantastical world. You're on this big adventure of a lifetime. So I feel like he saved the Dinosaur Foundation, which is something that Jurassic World should have done, but was unable to do.
Yeah.
The filmmakers were so preoccupied with what they were doing, they didn't stop to think if they should do what they did.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So really, I mean, this is not the worst thing I have seen all year. I think this is decent enough. It's got its issues, but I liked this enough that it made me realize these movies had potential, but they didn't quite fully get there.
Yeah, I would definitely put Dominion higher compared to the other two worlds, but I have to kind of like look back upon 2 and 3 for the rankings per se, because that between 2, 3, and 6, that's where it gets all meshy basically for me. Whereas 1, I know where to put 1. 4 or 5, I know where to put those. It's just between 2, 3, and 4 in terms of the rankings.
I think you're talking about 6, because Dominion's 6.
Well, yeah, no, but in terms of ranking, like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th on the rankings, you know, with 2, 3, and then 6, you know, in terms of like where the ranking goes, that's where it gets all meshy. Because I know in terms of what's last spot in the ranking, 6 and 5, or, you know, 6th ranked and 5th ranked, I know where those two movies are. First ranking, I know what the first ranking is. But ranks 2, 3, and 4, again, like I said, that's where it gets meshy.
I see. So yeah, I mean, we had a decent time. I think we were not angry about what we watched, and I think we just accepted what we saw, and we were just okay with it. You know?
Yeah.
So really, I mean, this is definitely one of those summer films that I think a lot of people are talking about. I know it's making money.
Yeah.
It's definitely beating Lightyear at the box office. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do a Lightyear vlog, but I don't think we're going to have the time to do that.
No, and it's probably, as of right now, based on what we're hearing, too.
That it's too conventional. It's not doing anything groundbreaking in terms of what Pixar's known for.
No, and there's some other issues, too.
Which I don't think we should mention. Everyone will kind of figure it out on their own.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, understanding why. Plus, also for the big part, the other Marvel movie is coming out shortly here.
Yeah, that's going to be our next one, Thor: Love and Thunder, which I got to start rewatching the Thor films to prep up for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a hard time getting through Ragnarok again.
Yeah, that'll be...
Because when we do Thor: Love and Thunder, and we will, I'm going to tell you how much Ragnarok really hurt me. But we might debate about that, but that movie really hurt me, so we'll get into that.
All right.
The last thing I kind of want to say is, after this, will Universal still be the same powerhouse studio that they once were? Because I kind of feel like they've lost that status to other studios as of late. Because if you think about the 90s, the 80s, the 70s to a degree, the 2000s and now, Universal had a ton of franchises. They had Jaws, but that got destroyed by sequels. You had Back to the Future. You had The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
Which those were very fun movies. The first two, at least. The third one, no.
I believe Harry Potter.
That was Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Because I know it's at the parks, but it's not them. I just kind of feel like Universal is not the same powerhouse studio they once were. This might be one of their last grand things, almost.
Well, I mean, for them, they have to figure out something, because otherwise... Yeah, I mean...
Otherwise, Disney's going to buy them up like Disney bought out 20th Century Fox. Speaking of which, there's a 5th Predator movie coming out in August. It's going to be exclusively on Hulu. I don't know if we should do a vlog of that or not.
Not too sure, but I know, again, like, Marvel will definitely be the next one for sure.
Yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder. And then there's going to be a big break between movies, because we actually got a trailer for Black Adam in front of this, and I think we'll do a vlog of that, but we need to wait and see.
We'll figure that out for sure.
Because I do enjoy doing these, and I want to obviously do more.
Yeah.
Because it's always nice talking about what we just saw. So yeah, that's Jurassic World Dominion. I think, go out, see it, and make up your own opinion about it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you liked it as much as I did, good for you. It's really not that bad of a film, but it's got its issues.
I would say for me, it's one of those, you watch it once, and if you don't want to watch it again, that's fine. But at least watch it once for the enjoyment aspect.
I think every time I see it, it just reaffirms the feelings I had the first time. It's, it's just like, okay, I liked it enough, still like it enough, still like it enough. But if I were to watch this back to back with the other movies, how would I feel? That's a little something I'm going to have to figure out. So anyway, Thor: Love and Thunder will be our next film. Let's hope that one doesn't hurt as much as Ragnarok did for me, but I'll explain when the time comes. And we will sort of figure it out and work it into our schedules. We can't do it the weekend it comes out because I'm a little booked, but when time frees up, we'll figure it out.
For sure, yeah.
Anyway, that's all for today. We will see you all next time.
All right.